They say your home is your sanctuary. For me, it was more like a storage unit I happened to sleep in. My name's Raina. I'm 22, living just outside Olympia, Washington, in the same split-level house I grew up in. I work as a blacksmith. Yeah, really, crafting functional art. Everything from hand-forged knives to sculptural iron gates. It's not just a hobby. It's my job, my income, my identity. And up until a few hours ago, it was the one part of my life no one could take from me. That morning, I loaded up a crate of my work into the back of my old Subaru and headed to the Capitol Lake Craft Fair. Sold out of 3 pieces and booked 2 new commissions. When I got home that evening, I was actually smiling. That never happens. Camille, my little sister, was sprawled on the couch when I walked in. Perfect nails, fresh blowout, scrolling through her phone like it owed her money. She barely glanced up. "How was your little festival?" she asked, not even pretending to sound interested. I didn't answer. I just gave a half nod and headed toward the basement. I was excited. I'd been midway through a custom order for a wrought iron fireplace screen for a couple in Seattle. Tight timeline, but they were paying extra for rush work. My forge corner, tucked into the concrete side of the basement, was my world. My safe place. My reason to stay sane in this house. But when I flipped on the lights and turned the corner, everything was gone. The anvil, the tongs, the grinders, my custom quench tank. Even the forge hood I'd welded myself was ripped out of the wall. I stood frozen, my keys still in my hand. At first, I thought maybe someone broke in. I stumbled back upstairs, heart in my throat. "Mom," I called out. "Dad." They were in the kitchen, chatting over wine like it was just any other Thursday. Mom looked up, eyes wide. "Oh, sweetheart, you're back. What happened to my forge?" I said, the words barely coming out. They both froze. Dad cleared his throat. "We were going to talk to you about that. You sold it." I asked, already knowing. Camille drifted into the room then, sipping from a glass of wine that wasn't hers. "Took them forever to unbolt that stuff," she said, like we were talking about a busted old fridge. Honestly, it was just collecting dust. My whole body went cold. "You sold my forge," I said, dead quiet now. "My tools. My equipment." "We needed to cover some things for Camille's show," Mom said, not even blinking. "It's a big opportunity. Her debut gallery exhibition. You understand." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just backed out of the kitchen and left the house. The air outside was sharp. I stood there, staring at the cracked driveway, trying to breathe. That forge had taken me 4 years to build. One commission at a time. Every piece bought secondhand, modified, re-welded. That custom workstation alone had cost me $3,600. I'd assembled it myself with no help, no support, no encouragement. It was the only thing I had in that house that was mine, and they stripped it away like it meant nothing. I pulled out my phone to check my commission list. One client had already sent half the payment up front. Another was expecting their gate in 3 weeks. What was I supposed to tell them now? I stared at the black screen, feeling like a fool. For years, I thought if I just worked hard enough, they'd see it. Now I knew. They never saw me at all. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, thinking about every time I stayed quiet to keep the peace. Every time I let Camille roll her eyes when I mentioned a new commission. Every time my dad called it a cute side hustle, like I was a child pretending to run a lemonade stand. By morning, the disbelief had burned off. All that was left was rage. I walked straight into the kitchen where Mom was flipping through some papers and Dad was nursing his second cup of coffee. The smell of burnt toast hung in the air. "Where is it?" I asked, voice sharp. Mom didn't look up. "Where's what, sweetheart?" "You know what. My forge. My tools. All of it." Dad set his mug down like he was preparing for battle. "We already told you. We sold it." "You sold my equipment," I said, stepping forward. "That I bought. That I used to pay my bills. Without even asking me?" Mom finally looked up. "We didn't think you'd be so dramatic about this. It's not like it was getting much use." "Not getting much?" I laughed, but it came out bitter. "I've got 3 active clients right now. That forge was my job. My income. How could you think that was okay?" Dad shrugged. "You live under our roof. You use our power. Everything in this house belongs to the family." I blinked. "So I guess Camille's things are up for grabs too?" "Don't be ridiculous," Mom snapped. "That forge was bulky and dangerous. It wasn't exactly safe having it down there anyway." I opened my mouth to argue again, But that's when Camille walked in. Expensive wool coat, sleek boots, hair shiny and curled like she'd just stepped out of a commercial. She looked me up and down like I was tracking in dirt. "Oh God," she said, "are we still on this?" I turned to her. "You knew, didn't you?" She tilted her head like she was bored. "I mean, they mentioned it. But the equipment was just sitting there. You barely used it this month." "That's because I was at the fair, trying to earn a living." She sipped from a fancy coffee cup I was pretty sure she didn't pay for. "Well, now you can try something new. You're creative, right? Adapt." "Adapt," I said. That was over $3,000 in equipment. Mom sighed, like I was exhausting her. "Sweetheart, it's not about the money. It's about supporting the whole family. Camille had some last-minute expenses, and this is a huge opportunity for her." The gallery asked for custom lighting, new canvases. "She's not even paying rent." I shouted. "I've been covering my part since I turned 18. Every commission I finish goes straight into this house." Dad stood. "Enough. We did what we had to. This is Camille's moment, and you should be proud of her." Camille smiled like she'd already won. I looked around the room, really looked. The kitchen I helped repaint last year. The chair I'd welded back together after it snapped. The coffee machine I bought when the old one broke. And not a single person in that room saw me as anything more than background noise. "I'm done," I said. "You don't see me. You never did." Then I walked out, slamming the door behind me, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back. I didn't go home that night. I drove straight to Lena's instead. Her workshop sat behind her old farmhouse, tucked between mossy trees and stacks of scrap metal. The place always smelled like smoke and oil and something sweet, like iron and honey. I'd spent years learning from her, not formally, but through long evenings watching her shape metal like it was cloth. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions, just stepped aside and let me in. "I'm guessing this isn't a social call," she said, handing me a chipped mug of tea. "They sold it," I said. "Everything. My entire setup. Gone." She blinked. "What do you mean they sold it?" "My parents," I said, each word landing like a hammer strike. "To pay for Camille's art show. Just ripped it out of the basement and sold it." Lena stared at me for a second before setting her tea down. "Sit," she said. "Now tell me everything." I did. From the craft fair to the confrontation in the kitchen. Camille's smug little smirk. My dad's casual shrug. The phrase "for the family" repeating in my head like static. When I was done, Lena stood up, walked across the room, and grabbed a legal pad. "Then we make it a problem," she said. "Get everything. Receipts, photos, text threads, emails. Anything that proves it was yours." I blinked. "What for?" "You think you're just going to take this lying down?" she said, eyebrows raised. "Girl, they stole from you. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was theft." Her words lit something in me. Not anger. I was already way past that. It was a cold, steady kind of clarity, like heat pulled into a blade. By the next morning, I had my laptop open in her shop and started digging. I found the original receipt from when I bought the forge, $1,700 used off a machinist up near Bellingham. Photos of me welding the hood. A whole Dropbox folder full of commission photos and videos. Client reviews. Even PayPal invoices linked directly to work made in that corner of the basement. I hadn't realized how much proof I actually had until I laid it all out. Then I tracked down the guy who bought the forge. He was a collector in Shelton, a hobbyist who bought retired tools and restored them. His name was Philip. When I called and explained what had happened, he sounded genuinely sympathetic. "I'm sorry," he said, "but I paid fair market price. Your parents said it was theirs." "I know," I said. "Would you be willing to sell it back? At least the forge and the hood." He sighed. "Only if you can cover what I paid." I already started cleaning it up. I thanked him and hung up, heart pounding. $3,600. That was what it would take to get it all back. I sat there a long time after that. Not crying. Not panicking. Just thinking. Because I finally knew what I had to do. And for once, I wasn't afraid to make noise. Sunday dinner. The one family tradition we hadn't let die. I hadn't been home in nearly 2 weeks, not since they gutted the forge. But I showed up that evening like it was any other Sunday. I even brought dessert, 2 slices of lemon cake from a bakery downtown, wrapped in wax paper. One for me. One for the moment I planned to ruin. They were already at the table when I walked in. Mom lit a tapered candle in the center like we were some Norman Rockwell painting. Camille sat across from her in a silky blouse, nails freshly painted, scrolling through her phone while pretending not to. "Look who decided to join us," Dad said without looking up. I slid into the seat closest to the kitchen, keeping my bag on my lap. Camille glanced up. "Thought you moved into the woods or something. You know, to find yourself." "Close," I said. "But no, I've just been busy. Working." Dad grunted. "So Lena's feeding you now?" Mom gave him a look. "Let's just eat, okay?" Dinner started like usual. Passive remarks. Stiff chewing. Camille droning on about her exhibit as if she'd single-handedly cured world hunger with acrylics and overpriced framing. I waited until Mom brought out dessert, something with blueberries and a burnt crust, before I set the manila folder on the table. Camille rolled her eyes immediately. "What is this, an intervention?" "No," I said. "This is documentation. Receipts. Photos. Screenshots. The forge you sold? That was mine. I can prove every purchase down to the gloves I used." Dad shifted. "Reina, I'm not finished." The room froze. "This folder contains everything you need to understand what you took. Not just gear. My business. My income. My livelihood. You didn't just sell scrap metal. You stole my tools, my workstation, and the means I used to pay rent and feed myself. And you did it behind my back. You lived in this house," Mom said, arms crossed. "Under our roof. That equipment was stored on our property." I nodded slowly. "So that's the game. If it's inside these walls, it's yours?" "Don't twist our words," Dad snapped. "No twisting," I said. "Just facts. And here's another. You owe me $3,600. That's what Philip paid you. I already talked to him." Camille laughed, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Oh my God, you're serious? You're actually going to nickel and dime the family over some rusty old junk?" "That junk bought your mother's new washing machine last summer," I said. "It paid for the groceries you ate when you couldn't be bothered to get a job. It paid half the gas bill every month." Camille scoffed. "You're being petty." I stared straight at her. "And you're being sued. Unless I'm reimbursed in full within 7 days, I'll file a claim in small claims court. I already filled out the paperwork." Dad stood up so fast his chair screeched backward. "You want money?" he barked. "Fine. Take it. And don't expect another cent from us ever again." He stormed into the hallway, came back with a checkbook, and scribbled out an amount with shaking hands. He tore it from the pad and slammed it on the table. "You're cut off," he said. "You want to act like a stranger? Be one." I took the check, folded it neatly, slid it into my bag. "Good," I said quietly. "That makes 2 of us." Then I stood, nodded once, and walked out. No dessert, no backward glance. The door clicked behind me like a lock sliding into place. I bought the forge back 3 days after dinner. Philip met me halfway on the price, not by much, but enough to keep me from resenting him. He even helped load everything into Lena's trailer. Watching my tools come home piece by piece made something in my chest loosen, like I'd been holding my breath for weeks without realizing. We brought everything to Lena's shop for now. She cleared out a corner and let me stack it carefully, each piece wrapped in the moving blankets she kept for sculpture deliveries. "You're not putting this back in that basement," she said. "Right?" "No," I said. "I'm done pretending that house is mine." That night, I applied for 3 shared studio spaces. One of them was above a bakery in a quiet strip of downtown. Faded brick, creaky stairs, but good light and cheap rent. I toured it with the landlord the next day, and the moment I stepped inside, I knew. It smelled like yeast and sawdust. The floor sloped slightly toward the back window. It was perfect. By the following Monday, I had keys in hand and a folding table set up in the corner. I moved my things slowly, a few items at a time. Mostly after dark, when I knew my parents wouldn't be around. I packed quietly, deliberately. A small box of sketchbooks, my angle grinder, a tool roll I'd stitched together years ago with mismatched thread. I left behind everything that wasn't mine. Clothes I didn't care about, trinkets from childhood, even the posters on the wall. Camille passed me once in the hallway, holding a giant foam board with her face on it, and the words, "Opening Night," in gold vinyl. "Running away?" she asked. "Packing," I said. She smirked. "You'll be back." I didn't answer, just walked past her with my hands full and my mouth shut. The last thing I left was a note. Nothing dramatic. Just, "I've moved out. Please don't touch my mail." No goodbye, no apology, no point. Back at the new studio, I unwrapped the forge one piece at a time and set it up like I had in the basement. Only now, Every bolt I drilled into the floor was mine. No one could take it from me. No one could say it didn't matter. That first night, I fired it up. The roar of the burner filled the space, loud and clean and real. The forge glowed orange in the corner, steady as a heartbeat. I set a blank bar of steel on the anvil and held the hammer without thinking. Not because I had to, but because I could. The room was silent except for the fire, and for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone a single word. The text started the day after I moved in. Mom, Raina, call me. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Camille. So dramatic. Enjoy playing blacksmith in your little attic. Dad, you made your point. Time to come home. I muted the thread. The forge kept me busy. I'd reopened commissions, starting small, custom hooks, fireplace tools, an ornate railing for a client in Seattle. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My name, my hands, my terms. Lena dropped by a few times a week with coffee and sarcastic updates from the artisan gossip circuit. We made fun of pretentious gallery blurbs and experimented with scrap bronze. For once, life felt simple. Then came the update from a mutual acquaintance, Mrs. Finch, the florist who supplied both Camille's gallery and Lena's booth setups. Your folks have been having a rough time, she said casually while wrapping eucalyptus for a bouquet. Heard the bank denied their second loan. Overextended for that show, I guess. Camille's planning another exhibit, too. Bigger. I didn't say anything, just nodded and tucked the flowers under my arm. But it hit me in the gut on the drive home. They thought I'd keep playing along, quietly covering gaps, slipping them money when bills piled up, pretending I didn't notice. They never imagined I'd walk away for good. And now their house of cards was swaying. I didn't feel guilty. I felt relieved. It was never about money. Not really. It was about being useful, being needed, being tolerated so long as I filled a role. When I stopped doing that, the illusion shattered. Still, part of me waited. I checked my phone some nights out of habit, half expecting Mom's name to pop up with a real apology. A message that said, "We're sorry. We were wrong." Something. Anything. Instead, I got Camille. Camille. Hope you're proud. Mom had to cancel her salon appointment. Real tragedy. I turned off notifications entirely after that. Lena showed up that evening with takeout and 2 beers. We sat on the floor by the forge, sharing dumplings and listening to the metal groan as it cooled. "You're not going back," she said, not a question. "No," I said. She clinked her bottle against mine. To clean breaks. I didn't toast back, not right away. I just stared at the flicker of orange from the coals, thinking about how long I'd spent in that house trying to earn approval that was never coming. I had bent every part of myself to fit into a world that didn't value me. Now, piece by piece, I was building a new one. The message came on a Thursday morning, tucked between 2 commission inquiries and a shipping confirmation for metal polish. "Mom, Camille's birthday brunch is Sunday. We'd love to see you. It would mean the world to the family." For a second, I just stared at the screen. Part of me wasn't even surprised. They'd ignored boundaries for so long. It was muscle memory now. But what caught me off guard was the phrasing, the family, like I wasn't part of it unless I performed properly. I sat with it for a few hours before calling. No texting, no room for misinterpretation. She picked up on the first ring. "Oh, sweetheart," she said quickly, her voice too cheerful. "I'm so glad you called." "I'm not coming," I said. Silence. "Well," she said after a beat, "I think you're being unfair. This isn't about whatever grudge you're carrying. It's about celebrating Camille." "I'm not carrying a grudge," I said. "I'm holding a line. There's a difference." She gave a little laugh, the brittle kind she used when pretending things weren't falling apart. "Honey, I know things got a little tense. But we're family. We forgive." "No one apologized," I said. "You took from me, dismissed me, then expected me to show up smiling. It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I interrupted. "And you know it." She sighed. "Camille misses you. Camille mocked me the last time I saw her. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter," I said. "But that never stopped any of you from making it clear who mattered more." Her voice dropped. "You've changed." "No," I said calmly. "You just don't get to control me anymore." There was a long silence. Then the guilt turned up like a dial. "We're trying, Raina. You're being cold. Do you want to tear this family apart over one misunderstanding?" "I'm not tearing anything apart," I said. "I'm stepping away from the mess you already made." Her voice shook slightly. "You'll regret this. One day, You'll realize family is all you have. Then I'm lucky I found my own, I said. I ended the call. Then I blocked her number, followed by Camille's, then my dad's. One by one. No more noise. That night, I stayed late at the forge. There was a custom piece I'd been sketching for weeks but hadn't touched yet. A sculpture, personal and abstract, made of twisted steel rods shaped like open links, each curve unfastened, mid-motion. I named it Unbound. By the time I finished, my arms were sore and my skin smelled like ash. But when I stepped back and looked at it, I didn't feel tired. I felt free. The live stream wasn't planned. I'd just finished a commission for a wall-mounted iron shelf, something clean and geometric, when I realized I hadn't posted anything in days. My inbox was full of messages from followers, a few clients, a couple fellow metalworkers, and people I didn't know at all asking for videos, progress shots, time-lapse. I shrugged, propped up my phone, and hit go live. The forge glowed behind me, the air thick with the low hum of heat. Sparks danced as I shaped the edge of a small steel ornament, something I was doing mostly for fun, just to feel the weight of the hammer again. People started joining. Comments scrolled up the screen. What are you making? That's so satisfying. How did you get into this? That last one stopped me. I looked at the camera. My hands were blackened, my face flushed from the heat. I could have given the easy answer. I always liked working with my hands, or I fell into it after high school. But I didn't. I wiped my forehead with the back of my arm and said, honestly, I got into this because it was the one thing that made me feel real. For a long time, the people around me didn't think what I did mattered. They saw it as a phase, a hobby, something cute to tolerate. But this, I turned the camera slightly toward the forge. This saved me more than once. So I kept going, even when they didn't believe in me. The comment feed exploded with hearts and kind words. You're amazing. This just made me cry. I needed to hear that today. I blinked at the screen, taken aback. Not from sadness, but something else. Something like connection. Like all those years I'd felt invisible were finally melting away in the heat of the flame. A few minutes later, Lena let herself in. She came bearing foil-wrapped tacos and a smug grin. Your little fan club is growing, she said, peering at my screen. Next thing I know, you'll be on some artisan reality show. I snorted. God forbid. We sat on the floor, eating with our backs against the brick wall while the forge cooled beside us. Outside, the bakery was quiet. No messages from my family. No drama. Just steel and silence and space to breathe. I checked the chat one last time before ending the stream. Thank you for being real. Following you forever now. More than metal, this is art. I smiled and clicked end. As the screen faded, I turned back toward the forge. The glow hadn't left it yet, or me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely whole.